What is the most ground swallow me up embarrassing moment that's ever happened to you? I ran into an old co-worker at McDonald's. Our tenures had overlapped by about a month, and that was several years ago. He recognizes me, and calls me over to his friends and tells them, "This is the nicest guy I have ever met." In the next 3 minutes, I called him by the wrong name, and asked him how he liked a job he'd never worked at. It was pretty clear that I hardly remembered him. I was so embarrassed that I got my McDonald's to go and ate it in my car. I'm midway through my burger when he and his friends walk up and get into the car directly facing mine. We made awkward eye contact while I had my food in my hand, and then they drove off. Fuck my life. My favorite one was an account of an event on the work forums. A manager was working through a transaction with a couple. Whenever the man was asked a question, his wife would answer. He asked, "Does she ever let you speak for yourself?" The wife responded, "No. Not since his stroke." Fuck. It was my birthday, and we were sitting at the kitchen table. It was my 2 sisters, Dad and Grandma. We were just passing out some cake, and my dad asked if anyone wanted whipped cream, and I said, "Rub whipped cream on me, Daddy." I have never once in my life called my dad Daddy. I'm not sure if it matters, but I'm a guy, and it was for my 23rd birthday. Went to the dealership and test drove cars. Went to sign for the car. Reached into my pocket. A hand went through pocket to skin. 6 rip in my favorite jeans. Thought nobody had noticed my butt cheek hanging out and felt relieved. Returned to the dealership for an oil change 3 months later. Salesman, "I see you got new pants." In a noisy room, someone was asking, "Are you okay?" Resting dead face overload, but because it was noisy, I thought they were asking, "Are you gay?" Being the straight person I am, I said no. They asked why and I explained. I was talking to my new supervisor when she told me it was her 3rd time taking her role at the Troubled Children program we worked at. She said, "These kids are what always bring me back." 17-year-old me smiles and jokingly says, "Why don't you just have your own?" Her smile and jovial spirit quickly turned to a dark, blank, empty stare. I did. 2 of them. They died 6 months ago. Both of them. Worst moment of my adolescent life. I was in the elevator area of my former job and wearing a skirt that was a little too big for me. Luckily, I had one of those long sweaters on over top because I was talking to the maintenance guy, and the skirt just dropped to the floor like, "And we're done here," and the guy and I just stared at each other for a small eternity. I was in a line in the cafeteria, and my female friend was leaning on the table, holding her purse. Every time she opens it, I close it. I did it twice, then she suddenly faced me, and it was a total stranger. I went back to our classroom, and didn't eat lunch. I was deathly afraid of public speaking in high school. When I had to give a speech in front of the class, my legs would shake, and I would sweat profusely every time. We had to give oral book reports to the whole class in my senior English class. I'm sitting in my chair, legs crossed, sweating with anticipation, when the teacher calls my name, "Fantasy fan, you're up." I let out a deep breath, and go to stand up. I forget to uncross my legs, so I trip. But I don't just trip, I stumble. I try to regain my balance, but instead, I pick up speed. I tumble for about 10 feet, before I finally fall. I get up as the whole class stares at me. I slowly walk up to the front of the class and say, "Well, the speech can't get any worse now." That moment helped me overcome my fear of public speaking, though. Since then, I've given multiple speeches in front of large crowds with no problem. Short backstory, I have epilepsy. We discovered I have epilepsy after I had a full-on, tonic-clonic seizure for the first time, when I was standing in front of my locker in the 6th grade. It was the first one of my life, and my body didn't know what to do, so I ended up peeing my pants. It's the only time I've ever lost bladder control during a seizure. Fast forward to the 10th grade, I was in class talking to a new kid, who I just so happened to have a crush on. I had told him my name, and a girl turned around, took one look at how we were sitting together, and said, "Aren't you the girl that peed herself in middle school?" He never talked to me again. In middle school, I used to have a bad habit of chewing on these pens that had sharp tips and came in red, black, and blue ink. Can't remember the brand, but they had a gray body and a see-through little window to see the ink left. Anyway, what I didn't know is that the tube body was slightly pressurized, and one day during class, I bit too hard on the pen, making it burst into my mouth. My teeth, tongue, and lips were stained blue for days, and everyone went around saying I gave a Smurf head. It took me a long time to grow into myself. I was bookish, I wore sweater vests, I had one of those sun color change necklaces. I genuinely thought it might make me look cool, and I hairspray my Ross Geller haircut. I was called helmet hair due to my overuse of hairspray. I had a crush on this one girl who was very popular, but she was nice to me a few times, so I kept up the dream. One day she had a note passed to me in class, everyone saw it, and I hid it in my desk until I could get home, and read it alone. I raced home and rushed into my room, then opened the note. In the note, she said she wanted to ask me something, but was too embarrassed, so could I come to talk to her. My heart fluttered, and for about 12 hours, I believed I was this close to having a girlfriend. At school the next day, my friend told me it was probably a trap, and to forget about it, but she was nice to me, so I persisted. I walked up to her, and said we should talk. She motioned that we should go talk in private away from her friends and our classmates, but I insisted she just ask me. Her, so, I heard you really like NSYNC. Me, yeah. I love them. I just got the CD last weekend. Her, so, do you want to go see them with me? Me, I'd love to. I'd been wanting to ask you out. Her, wait, you're not gay. She wanted me to be her gay friend. I was not am not gay. I just liked NSYNC. I used to wait tables. During a busy Sunday post-church lunch rush, I had to make a sundae for a table in the very back corner of the restaurant. I get to the table, and the entire party starts laughing. I'm standing there holding the sundae, super confused. I look down, and realize that I had somehow managed to get a large amount of whipped cream directly over my crotch while preparing the sundae. It was nowhere else on me. Just my crotch. All I could do was put the sundae down, say, "Oh my gosh," and speed walks back through the entire restaurant to clean myself up. Trying to stalk someone on Facebook and typing their name into the status bar instead of the search button. I was in a car with my friend at the time, and then we lost signal as I frantically tried to delete. Still makes me cringe. In high school, I was hanging out with my group of friends at lunch. One of our friends woke up wearing a suit and started talking to one of my other friends. A few moments later, he says, "Okay guys, I'm heading out now. I'll be back tomorrow." So, I replied excitedly, "Alright man, have fun." He gave me the weird scowl look of betrayal I've ever seen. Somehow it slipped past my radar that his girlfriend had developed a super rare disease and died within the time span of a week. All my friends were looking at me with the whitest eyes as he walked away, and in a chorus, everyone was like, "Dude." I was 13, and my family and I were on a skiing holiday. My parents had decided to sign me up for lessons, so that my dad could get some good skiing in, and my mom and sister could relax and drink hot chocolate. My sister had broken her wrist a few weeks prior to leaving, and my mom isn't really a winter sports fan. I had been throwing myself down mountain slopes with about as much grace as a brick, with the tutor occasionally griping about said demeanor, and was exhausted. We had time for one more run, so we all waddled over to the T-bar machine. This imaginatively named device is so called because a metal bar, shaped like an upside-down T, hooks below your butt and drags you upwards, so you're not constantly climbing for 10 minutes and skiing back down in a few seconds. Somehow, my jacket got caught on the bar, which knocked me to the ground. This is not the embarrassing part. It then dragged me along the snow, past where I was supposed to ski off, and carried on along a very icy patch towards the mountain, where it would turn back. Still not the embarrassing part. The embarrassing part was when the rough ice dragging under me somehow managed to pull down my ski pants, thermals, and underwear, exposing my bare ass to an entire slope of people, and giving me a nasty ice friction burn all down my thigh. Also, I was yelling my head off to get someone to stop the machine. A lot of people saw it. I was helped up and off the ice, and skied down to the bigger lift to take me back down to the hotel. I cried the entire way down. The real kicker was getting back, telling my family this story, while still sobbing through the wounded butt and wounded pride, and having my dad and sister howl with laughter, while my mum desperately tried to comfort me. I was walking with my friends from the dorms to a restaurant or something, and, deciding to be silly, started doing this little skippy hop type walk. Lame gag for a laugh, but no one was laughing. We were at the age where guys laugh at every stupid thing their friends do, so I stopped to turn around and see what was up. Before I could turn around, though, I noticed that there was this guy who was somewhat disabled walking in the opposite direction, coming towards us. One half of his body was atrophied and partially paralyzed or something. I don't know what was actually wrong with him, and this caused him to walk with a type of limp very similar, but less exaggerated than the skippy hop I was just doing. We made eye contact, and I just looked at the ground and heard one of my friends say, "What the fuck are you doing?" in this tone that makes me cringe to this day. That was almost a decade ago. On the upside, this was so cringy, if that word is even appropriate, that I think I'm dead inside and can't feel embarrassed anymore. When I was a teenager, I was a volunteer at a triathlon, and my job was to write the athlete's number on both legs and both arms with a Sharpie. So here comes a man, I marked one leg, then the other one. Then I do his first arm, and I ask him to turn for the other one, he said, and it was true. I have only one arm. I'm really not observant. My birthday party, about 15 years old. Kid knocks on the door, and I answered. The kid's front tooth is green like from rot. It was a temporary cap or something. I just stared at him, and he said hi. I said tooth. Pretty sure we both were humiliated. We did not retain the friendship. In Game 5 of the Cavs vs Pacers series this year, I was pretty drunk and stood up to go to the bathroom, lost my balance, and fell over the row in front of me. Then in my panic, I went all the way up the stairs, only to realize I needed to go down to get to the concourse. Didn't even pee, called a lift, and went straight home to die alone. So, I had a crush on a girl back in 10th grade. We pretty much flirted with each other, and she told me via MSN that she would like a hug. When she came back to school, she was sick for like 2 weeks straight. So, when the date came, I hugged her. It was super awkward. I hugged her for like a minute straight, and she calmly asked if I would let go of her. That minute felt like an eternity and felt embarrassing as fuck. After like 11 years, it still makes me cringe when I think about it. I ran into someone I knew from high school at the DMV and talked to him while I was waiting. I got called up, and I took care of everything I needed to do before he did. As I was leaving, I told the guy, "It was cool seeing you. Good luck with the wait," due to the fact that there were 15 to 20 people in front of him. He heard it as, "Good luck with the wait," which was something he was always sensitive about. He looked at me pissed off, confused, and said, "What did you just say to me?" To which I sloppily attempted to explain by saying, "You know, the wait. There's a bunch of people in front of you," or something like that. It was very embarrassing. I used to wear glasses, hearing aids, and braces and had severe cystic acne. My doctor put me on Accutane for the acne, and it made my face insanely dry. One day a few weeks after starting the medication, my friend made me laugh hard in class. It cracked the skin on my cheeks, and my face bled in the shape of my smile like Heath Ledger's Joker scar. I was an abomination. I've posted this nightmare before, but here goes. I was in high school and heavily involved in drama and acting. I was looking for things to audition for outside of school. My mother found an audition for a Renaissance fair. She insisted I audition, as I was being super picky. I did not want to at all. I ended up agreeing. Fast forward, she tells me auditions are in costume, so she bought me a really cheap, shitty costume from a party-esque website. The audition was at a really waspy country club. So, I show up in costume. I immediately want to die. I enter the country club, and I have no idea where the audition is. There are a ton of people in there, and they are staring at me, and laughing like I'm a joke. I am literally almost in tears. Finally, I ask a worker server I have no idea where the auditions are. He gives me directions that make no sense, so I wander this place for what feels like forever until I find the room. I enter, and the panel looks at me, repressing their laughter. I want to die at this point. They say I am definitely looking for the part prepared for the audition. I was given an audition form and told to fill it out. I asked for a pen. They couldn't find one, so one guy takes this really expensive pen out and gives it to me to borrow. He says he needs it back, as it's really expensive. I leave the room, panic weep, and flee the country club with this guy's super expensive pen. Fuck that shit. I've had plenty of embarrassing moments, but this one makes me feel the worst. Background: I played the flute in middle school, and I wasn't very good. Also, I was a chubby girl who always had misfitting and mismatched clothes. I was not self-aware at all. So, in 7th grade, we had a hat day. Instead of wearing a hat, I made a hat out of those long balloons people make animals out of. In math, I thought I felt something poking my head, but I wasn't sure, so I just ignored it. Skip to band practice. We were doing chair tryouts, and most of the time, I was the last chair, but this time, I actually practiced and tried to do well. My teacher didn't like me, and after assigning everyone else, she said, "And Malaria, you're in the last chair." I was so embarrassed, I took off my balloon hat in shame when I noticed pen marks on the back of it. The girl sitting behind me in math was trying to pop my hat in class. That just made me so embarrassed and sad. I never wanted to try at anything ever again. My boyfriend and I had only been together for a couple of months and hadn't gotten past the passing gas in front of each other stage. Which totally sucks for me, because, in general, I'm pretty freaking gassy. I don't drink carbonated drinks, except for beer occasionally, and one night I happened to consume quite a lot. We fell asleep, and I woke myself up because of the herd of animals stampeding noise coming out of my butt. We both jerked our heads up, looked at each other, and fell back asleep. My dumbass thinks that I need to clear the air and acknowledge the elephant in the room the next morning. I explained to him that I know I farted a grand fart, and I'm so sorry, to which he looks at me with a blank stare and asks what am I talking about. He didn't even remember, and I told on myself. He still laughs about it to this day.